Hey kid, I never knew how I would write this, but it's been on my mind long before today, and I've finally gotten the balls to put it on the paper. But well, I'm retiring. Don't get me wrong, it's not like I hate it here. Every day I still get to see the same people who make me smile, who make my job here easier. We crack jokes about how we don't get paid enough for this, about the good old days before we had implemented this modern tech, or about how old we're getting. You see, that's the thing. I think I'm too old to keep on doing this. I mean, sure, there are older folk, and I know there's one grandma who's at least a decade older than me, and she knows well what she's doing. That's great and all, but all those old folks, they still got that kick in them, still got that spark to keep making this place better for everyone else. But for me, well, I think you can figure it out on your own. I always wondered where I would get working at this site. I always figured that I would work here and forget all this weird stuff, and apply any skills I got in the job market. To think that I would be stuck here for so long that I'm considering retiring. Wow. I started working here with 2 other friends, and did you know that? We called ourselves the Triumvirate. Said that we would make our names known, and we sure as heck did. Things were easier back when we were all whole. We all had different roles, but dang, did I look forward to seeing their faces. You know the saying, 3 stinking idiots can beat the sleeping dragon. It felt like we could do anything when we were together. One of them made a name for himself by getting into trouble with one of the departments on his first couple of days, and got a whole bunch of complaints that he was difficult to work with, and then he became one of the greatest men that team ever saw. Of course, he was the first one of us to leave. The other one stuck around with me for much longer, and God help his soul. He knew well what he was doing, probably the best out of us, and he got promoted fast. Never saw a more deserving candidate than him. Ended up leading one of the sections that I was in. That wasn't enough to keep him at the site, and he left too. Maybe not permanently, given he's still on the payroll list, and I think a couple of guys have him on speed dial, but I haven't seen him since. Which leaves me. I'm getting old, kid. Gone are the dreams of me quitting and finding a job in the light. Nobody wants to hire an old guy past his prime. Folks my age were no longer clever or gifted anymore. It's always something about experience or being outdated with me. And granted, I don't trust all this new tech, but you shouldn't either. Write those reports yourself, don't just feed it into an AI. Who knows what mistakes it can make? Can't trust anybody but yourself. I've still got stuff keeping me attached to this site. I've got lots of friends and jokes to crack. There's always new folks to train, section heads to support, researchers to bug. Heck, we've even got evil corporations to battle, the whole 9 yards. The fight with the mouse never ends, right? But I also know that I'm falling out of love with this job. I don't attend meetings every time, I never liked them. But I stopped caring enough to finally quit showing it. It did wonders for my mental health too. All that work I used to do that made me famous to begin with, it's become an afterthought, which I kinda prefer. Looking back, fame and glory was kind of a kiddie dream. You ever read Romance of the 3 Kingdoms? There's a scene where they become sworn blood brothers under a peach tree. Sworn to live together, sworn to die together. This workplace was our peach tree. Our desire to help the site was our oath. Now that my 2 bodies have left, what's the point of being known? We were brothers, and now there's just me. And these past few years haven't been all rainbows and sunshine. Friends of mine left one after another, some willingly with a clean rap sheet, some marred by scandal. A couple left because they couldn't handle what was happening to the site, and then went to some that suited their talents more, and life moved on. Now that I think about it, I talk about how I don't care about being known anymore, but I wonder, what will my legacy be? Will I be someone who did what he could do for the site to stay afloat? Will I be an infuriating prick who harassed people for breaking rules they probably would never get in trouble for? Somebody beloved by his coworkers? Someone who was beyond incompetent and only barely tolerable? I haven't worked up the courage to ask yet, and probably never will. One of my superiors was named Billy. Maybe you remember him, or maybe he was before your time. Billy was a strange one. The first day that I met him, he hugged me closely. And when he let me go, he said to me, with the most serious tone that you could ever imagine, that he was listening to my heartbeat. He was a weird one, but he also saved my life. I was at a pretty low point. You remember my name. I mean, of course you do. It's right down there. But you can probably notice that it's not exactly the most Asian name. It doesn't suit me. That's because I was named after some dude that my mom listened to at a concert. I always hated my name for as long as I could remember. Others well couldn't, and even today, there are still some folks on the site who don't remember. Only you do. Or maybe you don't, and you need to look at who wrote the letter again. I hated it because it wasn't me. It was somebody that I was expected to become, which you know I couldn't. I held out a lot of self-loathing, and it didn't help that my friends on the light side, those who don't know about this organization, began turning on me, telling on me that I should hate who I am, that I should embrace society's messed up nature, that I should hate a lot of people, and that I shouldn't be who I am. And Billy was the one who brought me out of that dark night. Taught myself to love myself again, and that there was still hope to be found, that I could take my name and turn it into one of my own. I never got to thank Billy, and I'm not good with speaking, you know that. My gratitude was always implied, but as my dad once said, why imply something when you could just do it? And I mean, while he was right. I never knew if Billy knew just how thankful I was for his help, and now that he's gone, I probably never will. Just like I can't even ask a single coworker whether I did good or not. Fun. You know, my grandfather passed away while I was in middle school. Before he had died, my dad asked me to write him a letter. English if I had to, just something. He had told my grandfather that I wrote stories, incredible stories beloved by tons of people. He had exaggerated, sure, but it made my grandpa proud of me. He asked me to write something just for him. And I didn't. I had loads of time and I hadn't seen him in years, so I had plenty of material to write to. Anything was fine. It didn't matter that he couldn't read it. He could just ask my dad to translate it. But I just never picked up the pen and paper. Never wrote so much as anything, not even a date. I just never knew what to write or when to write. And as the days slipped by, he died without ever receiving a letter from me. He died without closure, never having heard from his grandchildren since a visit back in elementary school, waiting for a letter that would never arrive. My dad never forgave me since then. Maybe Billy is still alive, or maybe not. Maybe I should have written this letter to him, hoping that he would find it one day and know just how grateful I was for his help. Maybe I should. And here you are, having come to the end of an old man's rambling. I couldn't bear to go without leaving you with a letter to show you how much I loved you. All the memories that you gave me, kid. All the misery, all the headaches, all the laughs. You thanked me for my efforts, picked up the slack when I was ill, spoke to me during our breaks. You reminded me that I was still a human, that I wasn't lost inside this cold abyss of a site, that a bright future still laid in front of me, with you and everyone else by my side. You made me feel loved, and you made sure that I remembered that. I almost stayed just for you, but my fight with the sleeping dragon is coming to an end. Thank you for everything. I hope my legacy isn't too bad in your eyes. Regards, Victor.